Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at floating combat text. We're going to hook it up to gameplay abilities and have it add some floating combat text when we damage enemies. Okay, first thing we need to do is update. So go grab the latest 2019 317 build from today. And we're going to do as we always do to update the plugins. Go here, plugins folder, delete the OWS plugin, back to the zip file, go in here, copy out the plugin. I was right clicking to do that, and I'm right clicking again here and paste. Okay, and then we'll open up our project. There's some new events that we can use to be able to get damage data from our gameplay ability system. And so we're going to start there. Let's open up, let's see, doing damage. So remember we have our base character and we have our third person character with abilities. I'm just going to load these while we're sitting here talking about this. And so since this is that we're going to do right now is only damage dealing, and there would be no reason to have our AI show up when they do damage because they have no screen. So we're going to put it in our player character, which is third person character with abilities. Okay, now we're going to go to our event graph. And the new event is called on inflict damage. Okay, so this will get sent on the server only. So this is just to remind us that it's server only. It's going to tell us who's damaged, the damage amount, and is critical. So what we're going to do is we want to get this data back to the client. So we're going to create a custom event owning client inflict damage. Okay, and we're going to set this to run an owning client. We're not going to set it reliable. And here we go. So we need to send the data. So we need to send who was damaged. We need to send damage amount. I'll set that to a float. And we need to send is critical hit, which will be a boolean. And then I think for this one, let's see what type we should use. OWS character is probably good enough to get what we need. Okay, and so now we need to call this on client inflict damage only on authority, and we're going to wire up these. So now we're on our client, and so what we want to do is we need to get access to our HUD, which is where this is going to live. And so we're going to get controller. We'll cast to player controller is actually good enough here. And we should be okay to convert that to pure. And then we're going to get our HUD. And this is the one where we will convert it. Cast to... let's go take a look at our HUD. Okay. So we've got our XP drawing. Okay, that works. So It's our HUD, cast to our HUD, and we want to make sure that HUD, so see the parent class here is HUD. We need it to use our OWS HUD, so we're going to reparent, and it's going to give us access to some new stuff. And in particular here, it's going to give us access to add floating damage item. This is custom in OWS. And so what we'll do is we'll take the damage amount. It's a float, so let's round it. And then we'll drag it into damage text. That'll remove the decimal portion. And his critical hit will hook right up here. It's not healing. I do want a drop shadow, and I don't want an outline. And to begin with, we're going to try maybe, let's try 120. So this is, remember that the character origin is in the center of the character. We don't want the text to be in the center of the character. We want it to actually be above the character. So we're going to add 120, it's a little over a meter. We'll adjust that if we need to. Now let's hook up damage actor. And that does everything that we need to do to get it into our HUD. So now we need to go here. And okay, that looks good. Draw text. That was for our XP. So this event receive draw HUD is what we're going to be using. This does all of our drawing. And so we've got a new one here. Do I want to render it before or after the XP? I probably want it to go under it. So I'm going to move this further. So the Z ordering on these is by the order you draw it. So this will get put on top of whatever we're going to draw here, which is render. So we've got some stuff here in the future. We'll do inventory grids, and we've got a few other things, but here it's going to do floating damage. And we need get world delta seconds. So that's the amount of time between frames. So this will get called every frame, and then this here will get the amount of time. It needs that for counting off how long something is supposed to be there, and also animating our floating text. So we've got to get that into there. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay. Let's put a comment here. Grab all this. Called when a player inflicts damage on a target. Damage on a target using the gameplay ability system. Okay. That looks good. Okay, so now if we go into class defaults, we've got all this got in our HUD, my bad. Switch to the HUD. I was in third person character abilities. Got to go into the HUD, class defaults. Here we go. Floating damage, floating critical damage, floating healing, and floating critical healing. We're not going to deal with the healing right now. We'll set that up in a future video, but we're interested in this damage here. So we need a font. Oh, we actually already have one. Let's go take a look at that. So we have a font. I think it's under HUD fonts. Here we go. And here's the font. Okay, cool. I guess that's what we'll use. But let's do a little different sizes. So I'm going to duplicate this. No, not rename. Duplicate it and call it damage font. And I think I'm going to go up to let's do 24. Actually, that's kind of big. 22. And then I'm going to duplicate that again. Critical damage font. One of the things that's odd about these old canvas ones is you can't actually change the font on the fly. You have to use this legacy font size. It's kind of stupid. But it's okay here. Let's see, is that 32 is too big? 28? Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so we're going to come back here, and for our floating damage, we're going to choose damage font. And we don't need to do the outline one. For the outline, if you wanted to do that, I just create one or two sizes bigger, and then select it again. It draws the outline one behind it. So, again, that's all based on these values here, show outline or show drop shadow. So you can control it each time you add an item. It's per item. These settings are global, and then the settings here that you can send in are per item. Per damage text item. Okay, so the speed going up, let's see what I used in my test. I think 200 was kind of good. 200. Okay, don't do what I did here. I spent an hour thinking that it wasn't drawing. Well, the thing that's kind of dumb here is that the alpha starts at 0, so I was actually drawing invisible text. The first thing you do is make sure every one of these has an alpha of 1. Don't need to do the outline color, but you know what? Just in case we use it in the future, we're setting all these. Because it was super annoying to find. I'm sitting there going through all the code, like everything's working perfect. I don't understand why it's not showing up on screen. Only to find out that it was because I had an empty alpha. I understand setting them all to 0, that 0 is the default value, but I feel like F linear color here should have had alpha 1 as the default. Anyway. Luckily, I remembered after about an hour. Okay, so let's do some red, maybe somewhere about there. And we do have a drop shadow. We're going to do 1 pixel. So this is drop shadow offset X, drop shadow offset Y. So if you use negative values, it'll actually put the shadow on the top side. Okay, floating damage minimum display time, 1 second. And the fade out speed is also 1 second. So basically what happens is for 1 second it'll travel up 200 up. So if you wanted it to go left or right, you could use positive or negative on the XY. Positive would be this way, negative would be this way. If you want on the Y, if you want it to go up, it's this way. If you want it to go down, it's this way. So if we wanted it to go up into this direction, we could do that. Probably eventually, I'm going to work on some more. This one's just simple right now where it just kind of does one thing. I'll probably do some kind of randomization pattern eventually so that you could set them up per item, and have them like jumping off this way or flying off this way or around in an arc or different things like that. But for right now, we're just going up, the speed up, so it's going to travel 200 in 1 second, and it's going to fade out over 1 second. So if you set this to 2, it'll fade out over 2 seconds, but it's only displayed for 1 second, meaning it'll be at 50% faded out when it disappears. So you can control it that way. Or if you only want it half to fade out, you can do that. Okay, then for our critical, we're going to use our critical damage font, which is larger. We'll have it move up at the same speed. You could make it go faster if you wanted, or stay longer. Maybe you want it to go slow, or you want it to hang around longer because it's a crit. Whatever you want. I'm going to do this sometimes it's hard to tell the size difference. So I think this looks terrible, but I'm actually doing this just so we can see it more easily. So crit color is going to be this color. And we'll also do a drop shadow. I also think I might add some kind of setting where you can override the drop shadow per item, potentially. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of other stuff I want to do, and we'll set this to 1 and this to 1. And I think that gets us here, but I think if you remember, we've been working on this cave here, which I still haven't finished. Need to do that. So we're on the wrong zone. We're on this side. So we need to come back over here. I think we may have some empties we can get our values. Oh, those are actually the two portals. I feel like the empty is this one. So remember, right-click copy, and down to our blueprints. And we go into our third-person game mode, and we paste our start location. Okay, and we make sure that run dedicated server's on. And I don't have it logging here. In the test project, I had it logging the damage. We'll see what happens. We might not have done everything we need to, but we'll see. Yeah, we've got somebody to attack. Perfect. And eventually a lot of people have asked about, those things get really big and stuff and sizing. Right now that's a widget over top. The goal of this HUD-based UI, we'll talk about that for a minute. The goal of this HUD-based UI is to add the floating combat text, which we're doing, adding badges that go over the mob's head. So that would be like, let's see, is it Alt F1, Shift F1. This is the badge here that would go over the mob's head. I'm going to have that part of the UI completely customizable. This is going to get replaced with a HUD-based one. If you want to put some kind of fixed mob badge, kind of like WoW did up here, you'll be able to do that. And these things are also going to have sections that you can customize, whether you want to name, what bars you want. And also the main thing is eventually we're going to connect it into status effects for gameplay abilities. So we'll be able to go on our gameplay effect, add a tag, connect an icon to the tag, and it'll automatically show. So all that's going to get wrapped in together. And then eventually the HUD is also going to, I don't think I have it hooked up. Anyway, or do I? That's the old one. Anyway, the HUD's eventually going to get hooked up to replace this activity bar here, this inventory system with a different one. It's all going to be HUD-based, no UMG. Let's see what happens here. Oh, look at that, actually. It's kind of fast. Interesting. It almost seemed, this could just be, it almost seemed like they didn't fade out. Give it a try here. Oh, yes, give it a try again real quick. You go to full screen. We're also going to have to play around with our crit chance so that we can test that. Oh, it is fading out. Okay. I think I wanted to move slower and fade out. It's interesting that this is looking a lot different than the test project I did. Which probably means I just messed something up. But let's see, 200, 200. Maybe we don't want it to move as fast on the up. Maybe it moved too quick. 1 second. Okay. Let's give that a try. See if that's a little bit better. There we go. I like that better. Yeah, I like how that fades out. Okay, so their crit chance is super low. So I'm actually going to come here. I'm going to log in. Going to log into this, and I think we're using Future 3. Edit our character, and we're going to go here and set our crit chance. So our multiplier is 2, so we should hit for double. We're going to set it to maybe 50%. I just hit enter. See if that works. Oh, you know what? That's not the problem. That is not the problem. So, we need to go into our base character, and we need to go to this damage, calculate updated damage, and there is a new value here of whether it's a critical, because we're calculating in here, so we need to send it back to the gameplay ability system. So this is what determines if it's a critical, if it's less than that value. So we're going to drag this over to here. That was the reason we weren't getting any crits. So that was in the R base character, and then under this damage here, calculate updated damage. Some people have asked, well, there's already one in the starter project. What do I do? Just delete. If there's one in the starter project, when you start this project, just delete it and set it up to match this, so that everything will match for you on when you're doing the tutorial. I don't know what the starter project does. It's probably similar, but it's probably not the same. Ah, there we go. There's the crit. Okay. But that... Oh, that's interesting. 44. 89. Trying to see why. Huh. So a crit can be 44 and 89. That's kind of weird. Huh. Okay, well, let's take a look. Maybe I did that too fast. Okay. So we got that connected there. Just checking my other screen here. Make sure I did it right. So I dragged that into critical. Yep, that's right. Did we output damage derived crit multiplier? See if we hook this up right. Crit multiplier to derive crit multiplier. Crit chance. That looks good. This was actually broken in the starter project. It was using the crit chance as the multiplier. And the multipliers to get the damage amount on the true, which then sets the output, and that sets the critical. Okay. And then just double check that we got this. So we're taking the critical from inflict damage, sending it in here, and sending it in here. Looks good. That is odd. So the 89 was not a crit, and the 44 was. I would have to take a look at that. It's like they're backwards. I wonder why they'd be backwards. I'm going to double check the logic. So right now it's half and half. But when it's true is when it pulls in the derived crit multiplier right here. So let's go here. And we'll do print string. We'll do append is critical hit. Make sure these match. This runs on the server. No one was standing in water or wet. That was that code we did there. We're showing our crit chance. which did not seem to be showing, hold on, that did not seem to be showing our output log. I thought it was still saying 10%. Okay. So, is critical hit was false, which is, and then 44. That's good. I didn't see what color it was. And the crit chance is 0.5. That's correct. Okay, so the color was pink. Is critical hit is true. And the damage, okay, so that time it was right. We didn't change anything. That one's right. Okay, that one's wrong. So that last one said critical hit is true, but then it still showed the pink, which was, oh, wait. I might just be getting this mixed up. So the color was pink. Critical hit was false. Okay. How is critical hit false if the color is pink? And the damage output was 8859. There must be something else going on. There must be something else going on, because the damage is being multiplied. So even when it was false, we were still getting an output damage that was double. Let's do this. And we're going to basically go and grab the original damage. Make sure that it's not a problem here and that it's just something that's being sent in, which is very possible. But it's making it look like it's wrong. So it was red. Critical hit was true. The incoming was 44, the outgoing was 44. That can't be right. Huh. Maybe something else is going on. Okay, let's try it again. Critical hit is true, but it wasn't. And that one's false, so that was backwards when it was true. And that was false and actually did the right color. Or, yeah. So let's take a look at what we've got for our data. So, true, false, false. It's like they're backwards. Yeah, it's like they're backwards. Very odd. Maybe I did this differently than the test project. So let's go back. And I think we're saying less than, right? Yeah, we are saying. So we generate a value between 0 and 1. Then we say, is it less than the derived crit chance? And that if that's true, we send it. I bet the problem here I bet the problem is trying to read the output of this. I bet it's no longer... That'd be really weird, but it's probably no longer valid. Okay, let's see. Let's see if that's true. I don't use blueprints enough here to know what the lifetime of these things was. I just assume that that was creating a temporary variable that's good for the lifetime. Oh, you know what? Nope. You know what? Every time you read this, it re-randomizes the float range. That is what it is. That's going to be broken then in the starter project. I will have to push an update for that. Yeah, so what's happening here, again, this is simple in code, complex in blueprints, is that what you can't tell is that every wire you connected to this was a re-execution. And because you've got random, that's what's happening. Okay, makes perfect sense. We need to generate it once, save it to a local variable. So, is critical hit. And then we'll keep reading the local variable, which will not rerun it. That's the problem. Okay, so now we've got our critical hit there, and we can connect it here. We can connect it here. And we can connect it here. And now we're going to get the desired result because we aren't re-randomizing it each time. Glad we caught that one. 44, and it's false. Let me go back and show the log. And that one's true. That one's true. That one's true. Okay, we're getting the desired result now, and that is what we wanted. So we don't have any healing effects yet, so we'll save hooking that up in the HUD for later. But basically, we would just set different colors and fonts and settings here for healing and critical healing. And then all we're doing is coming over here and saying whether it's healing or not. So this one only has inflict damage. We'll probably add a new healing event. Yeah, we will, because health is a different transient. And then when we add our floating damage item, I'll probably rename that. When we add our thing here, we'll check the healing box. So there we go. Now we have some basic combat text, and we will keep expanding from here. Until next time, see ya.